Hey there, this is Lotus. Welcome. So today we're going to be talking about trust. And this is my second time of trying to do this video, and what I want to do this time is try to make it a little bit shorter, a little bit more concise, and at the same time it's a pretty nuanced topic, and it's really a deeper topic, right? That has a lot of moving expressions of trust and a lot of levels of trust. And this is a topic that comes up a lot in sessions with clients, individually, and both when I work with couples. So first and foremost, what I want to say is that at no time in this am I necessarily saying that trust is not a component in our relationships. That it is not something that we should indeed have between us and our person. And yet I'm going to turn this around and flip it around a couple times. So it's going to expand on trust in and of itself, and what we're actually trusting in, and what it is that we are seeking externally from another person to put our trust into, that over time we begin to see that this needs to be anchored in ourselves first and foremost. So this is going to be primarily for romantic relationships, and at the same time it can be applied to any relationship, but we're going to focus on romantic partnerships. So we're going to look at this through three different lenses. The first lens is going to be that of karmic relationship. The second lens is going to be conscious relationship. Little bugs on me. And then the third lens is going to be sacred partnership, or higher love relationships. So, so first of all, we're going to look at the karmic relationship. Karmic in general, when we're thinking of karmic, we're actually looking at the density of frequency or density of consciousness that holds our wounds, our fears, our lack, our separation from. And we're going to explore what that from is as we move along this spiral, because this is a spiral. We're going to call this just our shadow. Okay, our shadow aspects of self. Some that we know of, many things that we don't, those ways that operate from the subconscious. And then we'll move into conscious relationship, which is where we are empowered by our healing journey. And then we're going to look at the sacred relationship, partnership, or higher love, which is through the prism of both individuals having already done a majority of their healing work. Okay? And we're operating very differently from that perspective and that consciousness and that frequency. So I want to say this is a journey. It's an ongoing journey. And sometimes we spiral back, sometimes we spiral ahead, depending on the level of trauma that we carry, the level of wounding that we carry through our life, through past lives into this life, and to the degree to which we have done our deeper healing, remembering our own wholeness work. So we're going to start in the karmic relationships first. Karmic relationships, we could say, are really powerful, necessary, and needed relationships because they truly help to trigger our wounds, our shadows, in a way that no other relationship can because of the level of intimacy and potential for vulnerability. So when we can recognize that we're in an earlier stage of relationship, or that, wow, if I'm getting triggered a lot, or if I'm in a lot of projection to my other person, to my person, then I'm working through my pain and suffering. But I'm expecting or hoping that my person is going to, kind of protect me from that or help me in it by not triggering me. But these relationships are meant to hold triggers to reflect back to us, to butt up against ourselves, so to speak, through that person that is outside of us, to help us see what is our work. So in a karmic relationship, both people are going to really be operating at the same level of consciousness and the same frequency. Their baggage, so to speak, their shadows, so to speak, are normally going to sort of, be like a hand in a glove. They're going to fit really well. And that means that each person is going to be perfect to trigger the things within them. Now, this can look a couple of different ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big, it doesn't have to be a lot of drama. It can be very simple things, like I might be a very conservative and follow the rules type person, and have a sense of right and wrong and what that's supposed to look like. And then I might be attracted to somebody, right, that's kind of the opposite of that. That's going to be a little bit more of a wild card, a little bit, more unpredictable. So that can be actually a good sort of karmic meeting place if we're aware that we're both balancing each other out, right? And it might be more uncomfortable, say, for the person who's a little bit more, wants predictability and control, and then you've got like a little bit of a wild card. So that triggering might be different. The wild card might feel a little confined. But what it in essence does is bring about a sense of balance. So this is a karmic connection that, depending on any of the deeper issues, can hold maybe less drama, but still not feel like a good fit, particularly if, both people don't understand what they're dealing with there and what they need to be learning, right? The wild card might need a little bit of tempering and more mindfulness, right? And the more predictable person might benefit from sort of, recognizing it's okay to loosen the reins. Okay, so that's one form that may sort of be okay but not okay. And then you have the deeper pain kind of karmic relationships. And I'm going to use myself, as always, as an example. So let's say, for instance, and when and how trust is realistic or not realistic. So in my early 20s, I was in the middle of alcoholism. My first husband was also a practicing alcoholic. And so we were operating from a lot of shadows. We came together in this active disease in order to heal certain things or to bring things up to the surface. And obviously when you have that kind of dynamic, it can be dramatic, right? The lessons can be dramatic if you don't know what you're dealing with. So we may have had expectations of one another, right? As a couple, we want to trust the other to say, not drink anymore, or not lie, or to not be unfaithful. And yet, we weren't in a position. Two people operating from that place are not really going to be able to fulfill certain levels of trust because they are incapable. Not because they don't want to, not because they don't, or they want to hurt the other person, but because they are incapable of making healthy choices because they are not healthy people operating from what? These are key points. Operating from a sense of wholeness, completeness, and knowing what our wounds are. Most of the time early in life, we don't know what those qualities of ourselves are. So know thyself. We did not know ourselves. We didn't know what made us tick and why we ticked as we ticked. Obligations to be something that we weren't able to be, that was unrealistic because we didn't know ourselves, right? We were operating from wounds, so ideally somebody wants to be healed so that you're not operating from the wounding or the shadows, which is underlying motivations. These are underlying motivations that we may not be clear of. We may not know. Most of the time we don't in this early stage and phase. And there's an expectation that somebody act in a specific way that will help keep us feeling safe and secure. Nothing wrong with this. And at the same time, most likely we're going to be disappointed, we're going to feel betrayed, we're going to feel disillusioned. Because we're placing trust in someone, both people, in someone that is incapable of meeting a certain standard based on their level of consciousness and frequency. Okay, so what can we say about this? So one of the things that can be said and that comes up often is, especially in this situation, okay, well, they should know better, or, they promised that they weren't going to drink again, or, they promised that they weren't going to hook up with somebody and now they're unfaithful, these type of things. So then my approach would be that we can trust people only to the degree that they are conscious and aware and capable at the level they're at. So then a retort to that would be, well, if I say that, he's not capable or she's not capable of, respecting this and just let it go, well, then that just gives them a free pass to be unfaithful or to keep on acting in unhealthy ways. So here's the crux of this. They can't just use their disease. We can't just use our unhealed places as an excuse to act out in inappropriate behavior unless you're operating at that level. Somebody who is operating at a higher level of consciousness and has healed will not default into a lower consciousness and frequency, because it doesn't work that way. All right? So we'll probably revisit this again, but just hear that. People are only going to be able to operate at the level that they're operating. If they are manipulating in any way, shape, or form, they're doing it because that is their frequency, a reflection of how much they have yet to heal. I have a little bunny coming up next to me. Hi, buddy. What they have yet to heal, and how well they know themselves, their needs, or their truth. Oh, hi, baby. It's coming under the chair. Okay, so we can only expect the level or degree of which that person has earned or has grown to be trustworthy. So in my situation, in my early 20s, neither of us were trustworthy. Neither of us had the capability, even if we wanted to have a level of integrity and honesty and self-knowing to fulfill the expectation of another. Okay? So that's, and there's probably many things that can be said, all these other layers, and every couple is their own unique experience and expression of all of this. So this isn't simple. So then let's spiral up, right? Let's spiral up to a conscious relationship. And we'll take maybe the same type of example. So a conscious relationship, their healing is going to have progressed. Their level of know thyself is going to have progressed. We're going to be more aware of why we do certain things. Oh, this is what triggers my fear. This is what triggers my abandonment. This is what triggers my lack of trust. This is what triggers my not feeling lovable or worthy. And we're going to have an idea of this, and we're going to be willing to start taking responsibility for that and not projecting it out on other people to start to make us feel safe and secure in these ways. So in a conscious relationship, we've got two people that have done their own work, and they may have different issues that are, still in process or in progress. They might have different blind spots, right? Their triggers may still become certain projections, but there's a way in which we can step back and take a breath and say, okay, let me look at this a little bit closer. Let me come back into me and see where I need to take responsibility for my experience. So an example of this might be that, let's fast forward, and this is more hypothetical. So let's say, somebody is in a relationship, and we're going to keep the same substance example. And there's been this level of healing, right? This level of awareness, this level of growth, this expansion of consciousness, frequency, and we have a person who is, clean and sober. And then we have a partnership that's coming in, and that partner is more of a social user, a social, partakes socially, And if I am still operating from fears of being in relationships that are dysfunctional, based on lies and deceit and, codependency, let's just say codependency, and I say to this new partner, hey, I can't be in a relationship with somebody who is using anything. This is really common for early stages recovery, okay? For people who are in early stages recovery and maybe prolonged recovery. And that person says, hey, no worries, they're just starting to date, it's cool, all good. And so I have put my trust then. Okay, this person has said, no worries. So I'm saying, okay, good, I'm going to trust you that you aren't going to use any substances. They say, okay, got it. And then lo and behold, somewhere down the road, they do. And I, or, this person who's sober, goes, wow, I don't understand what happened. I trusted you. I trusted you to not participate. Now, this person over here might say, you did. And I'm sorry that I, betrayed your trust, that I made a different choice than what I said. However, I was just in the moment. I was with my friends. It felt appropriate for me. It felt okay for me, for my truth, for who I am, to partake. I was still being sensitive. I wasn't doing it around you. I told you, I let you know, and at the same time, it was in my truth to be able to do what I wanted to do. Now, I might have a couple different ways of operating with this. If I'm still operating in expecting my person to take care of all my needs because I don't want to feel uncomfortable, I can project betrayal. I can project I can't trust you. I can project you don't love me. I don't matter. All sorts of things. Or I can take the experience, I turn the mirror towards me and say, what am I feeling about this? Take these off. What am I feeling about this? Why am I triggered by this? And then I have the opportunity to look deeper and recognize it makes me feel unsafe because I'm afraid that, like myself or my other relationships, they're going to keep using and it's going to get out of control. Okay, so that's my fear. Or I'm going to be afraid that it's going to happen more and I'm not going to know about it and there's going to be secrets. That's my fear. And I get to assess, are these fears accurate and appropriate and real 10 years down the road with somebody who has only shown me that they know themselves, they're honest, and they're able to communicate with me, right? So here's the other components. Can we communicate consciously, openly, honestly? And then I get to say, all right, this is showing me I need to heal this fear, or I can choose to live with it for the rest of my life, right? I have a choice. I can end a relationship that is really awesome and good, and feels healthy, right? Healthier, or I can stay in my stories and my narrative and my past and only gauge my life by those stories, by those feelings, and in fear of these things happening. So ideally, from a conscious relationship standpoint, I would make the choice, oh, okay, I get it. I hear what you're saying. This is me here. I need to do deeper work to feel safe and secure in myself, not necessarily in this relationship. So hear this. I need to feel safe and secure in myself that I can trust my own discernment to recognize whether or not this is going to feel appropriate for me. Can I be in a relationship where I can trust if it doesn't feel good, if it becomes, if it becomes an addicted relationship, since that's my fear, that I will know when it's no longer in alignment. Or, right? So I can, or that it will be fine. And my person is going to honor my space and what feels good to me, and yet be in their own true essence expression at whatever time they need. All right, so this is where trust starts coming inside to me. So I'm going to trust that I can self-soothe. I can take care of myself. I can heal this. And I have a partner who can help me heal this by their level of consciousness, honesty, willingness to talk about it, willingness to be sensitive, considerate, to hear my point of view, respect, all of that, and to choose their truth. I'm choosing my truth, they're choosing their truth. Can we share the same space and cohabitate? And I trust that for as long as it feels appropriate and healthy, okay, that's a date, right? So this is when we're operating consciously. Both people are aware of themselves, they're taking responsibilities for themselves, and they are showing that they are trustworthy to, or rather in the expression of their individual truths. And both people are showing up within their own integrity, knowing what they need, knowing what will not work, knowing that we can compromise to support the relationship without compromising our truth. We know how to come home to ourselves, self-soothe. Now, the other key component here that starts to come in as we come into conscious relationships is our own level of self-love. Now, in this situation, I could choose to stay in, I've been betrayed, I don't matter, I'm not loved, they're choosing that over me, right? So then I'm starting to feel my abandonment, and oh my gosh, what if they do this again? And then they're really, or what if I say, no, this isn't okay, and then they leave me, right? This is where our abandonment and self-love issues start to rise to the surface. And then we start compromising. This is a deep karmic wound that can start to rise up, and this happens a lot in karmic relationships, but we're going to bring it forward here because it still happens here. So in this conscious relationship, I might have the choice, like I might compromise myself. Say this person, maybe they do use, or maybe it does start to get a little bit more. And I'm having to check back in like, oh no, like I feel this. I am learning to self-soothe. I'm trying to trust this, but it's still not feeling good to me. But I don't want to say, hey, this isn't feeling good. even if they're not doing it around me, because maybe they're doing it around me more than feels safe for me. And if I'm compromising my intuition, or if I'm compromising what really doesn't feel good because I'm afraid of losing that person, then another wound is coming up, right? It's coming up to show itself that I have choices to make. Where am I not honoring my truth? Where am I not listening to my own intuition? Because it would not be unusual early on for a recovered person to come into a relationship with someone who uses more socially, right? Because there's still maybe that little bit of frequency of addictive tendencies in the recovering person. So it may not be a full-blown addiction, but maybe there are tendencies there that start to creep in. That's still showing that there's still stuff here to work on. Consciously, again, it can show up, and then I say, okay, I recognize that I'm doing everything that I can to know myself. I understand my fears. I understand what feels appropriate to me. And now it's been 2 years, right? I'm invested, and, or 3 years, and I don't want to start all over. I don't want to lose this person. I don't, maybe they will change, right? Maybe it can be different. So I can hang in a little bit more. So what starts to happen then is I need to address my abandonment and come home to myself and self-soothe even deeper, to know that it is not that I am not worthy, that I don't matter, and it is not my unlovability that is bringing about another person's addictive tendencies. And furthermore, they are not choosing that, if that's the route that happens, because I don't matter. It is because they are operating at the capacity that they know how to operate. It's a higher capacity, but there's still their own shadows at work. Then my work is to go even deeper into my own self-love, to know that no matter what, I choose me. I matter to me. I love me. This is key, because if I don't do that, I'm always going to be at the mercy, right, of needing this from another person in an unhealthy way to fill my own void. So that juncture is going to require me then to choose my own truth, even if it means the loss of this, or there's negotiation that needs to be made, or there's space that needs, or then it becomes its own exploration. But the key factor is I need to know deeply that I can choose myself, that I can love myself, and that I can take care of myself. Because now it's I need to trust me. Me. Okay? When I trust me, it's easier to trust the situation in right accord. I'm still going to trust them to operate from where they're coming from. And I'm going to trust me to operate from where I'm coming from. Okay? And the more that we come home into our own wholeness, we have a wider bandwidth of trust and trustworthiness. Okay, I hope that's clear. So let's fast forward. Again, I don't want this to keep going. So now we're going to look at sacred partnership, higher love, sacred partnership. In this place, two people, there he is again. I'm just going to show you, see if you can see him. Can you see it? There he is. You're on camera, buddy. He's so sweet. He hangs out with me all the time. So now we're going to look at two people who know themselves pretty darn well. They understand and recognize and have befriended their shadow. Any aspects that are still hanging on, any of that darkness, any of those wounds that are still active, they know them intimately, and they trust that being in a partnership will only continue to heal them and activate them in a conscious way. They take self-responsibility across the board, right? They take responsibility for their actions. They take responsibility for their experience, right? They understand 100% that they know their truth, or at least their truth at any given stage of life, okay? And they're going to attract a similar person. It doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be challenges. But what it does mean is that both people are going to be able to have a deeper sense of self-love, self-knowing, self-honor, self-trust, and knowing that, so this is where it can get a little tricky depending on where you're at in this spectrum. At the sacred union juncture, we understand that we are always evolving and growing and changing. And we celebrate that. We celebrate that in ourselves, and we celebrate that in our person. And in this, we choose first and foremost our own alignment to self. We trust that we will always choose our soul's unfoldment, our soul's guidance, our relationship and our alignment to the divine, to the universe, to God. We will always trust the ways in which life calls us forth to grow and to change and to evolve. So you see, we've moved from that juncture of projecting our trust on an external person, and then trusting, right, in degrees, trusting ourselves, trusting, learning that we can trust other people if we understand the level that they're operating at and what they're capable and we're capable of delivering. And then we know life has its own journey for us. And we learn to trust in that. And by doing this, we've already come to the places of self-love. I already said that, self-honor, right? The more self-love I have, the more I can love you. The more self-honor I have and respect for myself I have, the more self-love and respect I'm going to have for you. The more trust that I know that I'm capable of offering and showing up with, the more trust I'm going to have for you. And the more I'm going to attract that same frequency. So you can see, as we've evolved through these stages, if I'm operating up here, the person who, the frequency will not really allow or attract somebody who operates through manipulation and deceit. The frequency won't match. Okay? The way of showing up won't match. The level of honesty and integrity won't match. Because at this place, we might be like apprehensive because we don't want to experience pain. We don't want to hurt somebody. We don't want to be hurt. We don't want to maybe go through loss, but we aren't afraid of it. You see what I'm saying? We aren't afraid that if I am radically honest with my truth at this time, that I won't hurt somebody. I'm not going to hurt their feelings. I'm not going to disappoint them. And they aren't going to disappoint me. We allow the space for life to move us where we're meant to be moved, and either our truths stay connected or they veer. Reconfiguration happens. So because we've healed a lot of our wounds, when we do experience pain or hurt feelings, they're very different from this frequency. They aren't personalized as deeply. It's not a reflection of us like it is in the earlier stages of our coming into wholeness. So, example. So my ex-husband and I, we came together operating more so at a conscious relationship. This is like 20 years now, 20 some years now ago. We were married for 6 years, which gave us this opportunity to really, 16 years, which gave us this opportunity to really move through a lot of these stages of growth and development and maturation in our emotional IQ, our spiritual IQ, right? Not just material plane IQ that connects us to, functioning in the world. But then these other layers of intelligence that is where we're moving, right? Where we're all moving through all this healing work. We are moving into higher levels of maturation and evolving as a species on this planet. So we got to test all of these different lessons. And when we married, we were aware that life changes, right? We grow and change rapidly. And in our vows, we stated that we were devoted and dedicated, first and foremost, to trusting in the divine, into the guidance of the universe, God's presence, our soul's trajectory, and that we trusted one another to be true to themselves. And in that, we could trust in our union. And that served us really well. I mean, it continues to serve us as friends. Yes, there came that time where our truth began to shift what the other person was going to be in alignment with, and vice versa. So what was in the highest good for one of us was in the highest good for both of us. Did we mourn? Did we grieve? Did we go through the loss? Did we go through, the mourning who we had been, and the loss of those identities? We did. And we trusted and were able to show up in deep honesty and integrity with how we were changing and growing, and it was in no way because we blamed the other person, because we had learned along the way to do this deeper work, to stay true to ourselves, right? To heal those places. And so at the time of our separation and divorce, you know, we felt more whole unto ourselves. We felt more clear. We felt even more expanded in our consciousness because we really showed up and we were able to support one another while self-soothing ourself. It wasn't because we didn't love each other. It wasn't because one another didn't matter, that we didn't, have amazing things, that we still cared about each other. It was that we had grown in a different direction. And we were growing out of what we could offer each other and what our needs were. So it was this beautiful, and yes, the heart breaks, but we weren't afraid of the heartbreak anymore either because it wasn't personal. Karmically, we take all these things personal, and it reflects to us when somebody says, this isn't working, I don't feel the same anymore. Or when they're taking care of themselves, right? I remember going through that with my first love, He was taking care of himself. It wasn't working. Life was changing. He was doing what he needed to do for me, or for him. And because of my deep abandonment and not feeling lovable, it came up to the surface and it became deeply ingrained as rejection for me. It was never that. Does it mean that, yes, there were things that were showing up? Maybe, I don't know, but maybe that weren't healthy, for him, for the relationship. Looking back, of course, I totally see that. And so he was actually behaving in a healthy way due to those circumstances or what perhaps, could be seen down the road. But it took me a long time to really get this because this was a deep wound. And I took it personal and projected it then onto other relationships until I really came home to this deep recognition of my own worth and my own love, and realizing that people need to choose their truth and their own unfoldment. Nobody wants to be an obligation in a romantic relationship. Nobody wants to feel stuck or held captive, or that they're holding somebody captive in their love. When we allow love to evolve and grow and change, because we evolve and grow and change, love stays present because it's always within us. So the key factors, right? The key takeaways is that when we're on a path of relationship, which is a path of healing and evolution and soul unfolding, it's one of the most powerful paths. When we're on this path, we learn so much, and it's all necessary. None of it is bad or wrong. We aren't broken. We aren't, tainted. None of that. We simply have forgotten the places where we have been separated from ourselves, and this path through being in relationship brings us home to ourselves by reflecting back places where we have lost our own wholeness. And the more whole we are, the more we show up and we can be in relationship in very healthy, vital, and vibrant ways. Conscious ways, right? Profoundly growing and deeper intimacy and deeper vulnerability because we're safe and secure inside. We don't have those same kind of fears of loss and abandonment. So we can move with an open heart because we know we will always be in love first and foremost with ourself, with life. We are held by life. We trust life. We trust our soul. We trust the divine. We trust our partner to honor themselves and therefore be in devotion and honor to us. So it's a beautiful celebratory thing, and it is a journey. So relationships now, my goodness, this lasted the same amount of time. Oh well. Relationships now are going through a lot of challenge because the paradigms are shifting. A lot of relationships are breaking up. They are crumbling. So for any of you out there that are going through big transitions, from a spiritual perspective, I want to just send out love and support and affirmation that this is part of the spiritual momentum that we're in. We are called to move into next levels and next expressions of love, of both self-love, unconditional love, personal love, relational intimacy, and to heal everything that gets in the way of the expansion that we're moving into via new models, new paradigms of partnership and relationship. So, if anybody is going through their own rumbling right now, no matter where you're at in these stages or phases, and if you are seeking support for your own process, for your relationship, wanting to know how to more consciously uncouple, reach out to me. I'll put the link for, my contact and a little bit more information from my website, but you can go to lotuslindley.net. Beautiful times are ahead, and don't be afraid to crumble. Don't be afraid to mourn and to go through the loss, because it's never that you're not amazing and worthy and lovable and ready for your next level. That is the beauty of all of this. So, sending love, blessings, wherever you are in your journey. I hope you can embrace it all, every moment of it, and see the value of it, the import of it, and the profundity, is that a word? Profundity of every stage that's so needed. And we're not seeking perfection. We're just seeking more and more wholeness and deeper connection with oneself and with the divine. All right. Blessings.